Hello everybody, welcome to Polyglot Hacks, and in today's video we're going to be talking about whether it's a good idea to learn just one language or more than one language at the same time. Stay tuned. Alright, so the other day I noticed on Instagram that I have a few friends who are polyglots, and there are many others that I've noticed within the past few months, but there's people learning multiple languages at the same time. Now in today's video, what I want to do is I want to compare the difference between someone who's learning one language compared to someone else who's learning more than one language at the same time, and we're going to look at the pros and cons of each. Now before I get started in this video, I just want to say that this is for the majority of people, and I know there's certain people out there, certain polyglots that may do better with two languages. Maybe it improves their focus, maybe it gives them more motivation, but this is for the majority of people, or the average person that's deciding whether to learn one language or more than one language at the same time. Alright, so here are the pros and cons for learning one language at a time. So number one is you have faster learning. So you will learn faster. Imagine if you divided your efforts into two instead of dividing them into one. Imagine putting your eggs into one basket instead of two. Obviously your one basket is going to be more full. So even though you're learning one language instead of two, you'd be making progress in that one language much more just because you're only learning one language. Point number two, cost effective. So I don't know about you, but I personally like to teach myself, and teaching yourself really does pay off. So if you are able to teach yourself, it's really good because it's really cost effective. However, if you're taking classes or you're going to university or you have a tutor, it is going to cost some money. And imagine doing that for 2 or 3 languages instead of just one. It will be much more costly if you're learning more than one language at a time. Point number 3. It's less time consuming. So if you're going to be learning 2, 3, 4 languages at the same time instead of learning one, you're going to be studying probably all day if you want to make some really good progress. So it's just not feasible unless that's all you do. If all you do is learning languages, it could be doable, but the majority of us have jobs and this is kind of a hobby on the side. Now here's the cons for learning one language at a time. The cons really is that you have to dedicate months or years to learning one language. So you could get bored of this language, you could lose motivation, and this is a problem that occurs for some people. So the dedication to only one language can be tough sometimes. Another con that I found was that you do make faster progress for one language, but at the end of the day you're learning one language instead of 2 or 3 or 4. So the overall progress is hindered, but at the same time, you're only learning one language instead of multiple languages. Now here's the pros and cons for learning more than one language at the same time. And this point goes directly with what I just talked about for the cons of learning only one language. And this is that you get to learn more than one language. So that's a pro, definitely a pro for learning more than one language at the same time, is that you get to know multiple languages. You might not make as much progress in each one, but at least you know more than one language instead of learning only one. Point number 2, it could really help learn new learning strategies that you wouldn't have learned if you were only learning one language. And the reason for this is that sometimes certain languages force you to learn a new learning strategy, and that could help you within your other languages as well. Now here are the cons for learning more than one language at the same time. So point number 1 is that it could be costly and time consuming. So if you don't have the money, if you don't have the time, it's going to be an issue to be learning more than one language at the same time, because learning more than one language requires both of those. Also, another issue that happens when you're learning more than one language at the same time is that your focus gets spread out. You want to make certain languages your priorities. You tend to lean towards one than the other. If one language is more fun to learn than the other, you tend to start learning that more than the other languages, and that could really cause a disruption in your focus. Lastly, if you're learning more than one language at the same time, it could cause burnout. And that's because you're trying to learn so much, you're trying to put so much in your head, you're trying to do everything, you're trying to juggle 2, 3, 4 languages, and that can really cause a toll on your body and on your brain. So you need to really be careful if you're learning more than one language at the same time, and what would maybe help is if you would schedule your learning sessions. Alright, so I'm not gonna make a final decision, but the pros and cons are there for you to decide what you would wanna do. So if you wanna learn just one language or you wanna learn more than one language at the same time, here are the pros and cons, and I hope you can make a decision from what I've told you. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video so much. I put in so much effort into this video, so I hope you really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed, please comment, like, share, subscribe, and like always, holla back at your boy.